one way or another, this kid's going to leave this hospital. Our job is to be there for him no matter what happens.
Yeah.
That's when I believe we had true grit.
So picture this. The day you're born, the doctor pulls your parents aside and he says, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but your son, he's probably never going to eat normal food, never going to learn to talk right, likely will never walk, never going to live a normal life. I'm sorry. For Kris Hammons, he doesn't need to imagine that was the starting line. But 20 plus surgeries later, he's married, he has 4 kids, one of whom spent his first 10 months in the NICU as well. And now Kris is out there coaching burned out dads and men how to build ridiculous grit with Jesus right in the middle. Kris, man, welcome to Stand Up Dude.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Kris, here comes some real talk, all right? What did those doctors tell your mom and your dad that day? And how in the world did they not just lose it, man?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they held it together, but I can tell you that they made it very clear that everything that you as a parent think about your child having a normal childhood, that all just goes away. All the tests that they had run, and this was a prestigious hospital. And they did all these tests on me 2 days, about like back to back. We were coming in from out of town. This was in Baltimore. And, you know, they were pretty frank with them. And both of my parents, particularly my mom, came from a faith background. She also had been taking nursing classes because of some of the stuff I was going through. At this point, I'm, you know, a couple of years old, not very far along, but we're pretty early. Not a lot is known about what is going on with me, because not only do I have dwarfism, but I also have some hearing loss, some vision loss, things they were starting to uncover, as well as like I had a feeding tube. I couldn't really eat. I didn't have, you know, I had a cleft palate and a very mild cleft lip. I was born without a roof in my mouth, and they had to, you know, address that early on. So all of these things kind of compounded. I had a hole in my heart. And so all of these things kind of came together. There was more questions than answers. However, in that 2-day round of testing, the last test they did after dilating my eyes was a cognitive test. And so on the report, they wrote mental retardation.
No kidding.
And right away, my mom, a combination of her faith and knowledge, and having taken nursing classes, she sees, well, wait a minute, like you did his cognitive test after you dilated his eyes. Of course he couldn't see.
Wow.
You know, she kind of saw the flaw in that. And those two things kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think for both of my parents, particularly my mom. And yeah, that was really how they, I think in the early days, was able to read a report, and I still have a copy of it today, of seeing the words mental retardation. This is in 1983, 1984, and be able to say no.
Yeah, that's not that's not the reality, right?
So you got initial news right from the get-go. The doctors walk in and say numerous things, and then you're saying over the next 2 years they developed a laundry list of other issues?
Right. So when I was originally born, like they knew right away, just from looking at me, you know, it looks like he has some form of skeletal dysplasia. And just pro tip, skeletal dysplasia is just a different way of saying dwarfism.
Really?
A different way of like saying that the bones aren't growing right. And so they...
So moderately normal shape from the get-go.
In some form, but I was really small.
Really small.
And I was 4 weeks premature.
Okay.
So they knew right off that, like, hey, he has some form of dwarfism. We don't know what it is yet, but we also see right away that we can't put him on his back because he might swallow his tongue because he doesn't have a roof in his mouth. So I was, like, forced to be on my stomach. That was I think one of the first things they addressed was the cleft palate. And then, you know, they knew pretty quickly that I had some heart abnormalities. And so, yeah, so it was one of those, like, they knew right away. And the further, it was kind of like a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
As they opened it, the more they found.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And so just for everyone else who's probably wondering, like the correct term, the appropriate term, I guess, dwarfism is it? Like I know people throw around all kinds of other terms.
Right.
That's sort of the modern right now.
Dwarfism is totally the political correct term. There's some other terms out there. But yeah.
Just to be fair for our listeners, he told me 1 minute before we hit record, he's very unpolitically correct.
Yes,
then he mentions numerous movies that I was like, I love that
you love that movie.
I love that you love that movie, and I can't wait for you to tell them what you're going to be doing this Christmas. But so like Stu's basically saying, so we want to get this right, and I know our other listeners, our listeners want to get it right. So what can you say, and then why did some of the other slangs like become not cool, or where they come from? And would you just help us, because everybody wants to do the right thing.
I think the most common one that you probably hear of is midget. You hear it in midget cars. You hear it in a lot of people. I remember growing up, I would have people say, "Are you a dwarf or are you a midget?" And they're the same thing.
Yeah, it's an interchangeable term.
I even would have some people, "Are you a dwarf, a midget, or a little person?" Well, they're just terms for the same thing. And midget, really, the thing about that one is it has very strong ties to the days of vaudeville, which in culturally society, most people with dwarfism could not get a job unless it was in the entertainment industry.
Okay.
And they're basically were put on, stage and not really paid like real entertainers.
Okay.
So it has that connotation and that history, in that like, hey, all you guys are useful for is to get up and entertain us. So get up and entertain us. And so that's where midget historically comes from. And so, today it's kind of like, it's probably the most egregious of the words, for sure.
Where in the world did it come from? Why that word?
From the circus days.
There's somebody just made it up?
Yeah, somebody came up with it. And it was used to describe things that were smaller, right?
Okay.
So
I guess became the term.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
thank you.
I know people are probably dying to know, like, what is one thing that would kind of blow their mind about what it's like living with dwarfism, like a day in the life?
Yeah, let's hear that.
I can speak for myself when I say I didn't know any better until I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, really?
So nothing occurred to me. I just thought, I remember going to the hospital. I remember having all these surgeries.
Yeah.
But I just thought everybody did that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just walk around like everybody else. And so it took growing up and like seeing myself on video, for example, like, oh, I really do walk different than everybody else. Or I can't, by about that time, I start realizing, oh, I'm not going to outrun anybody. Basketball is not my sport. So, you have those realizations, but nobody tells you that.
Yeah.
You just grew up and find that out. And so like, for me, I just like lived a normal experience until it kind of realized that all my peers were outgrowing me.
Okay.
So, and there's different forms too.
Yes.
Like it's not just one condition.
Right. And so you have about anywhere between 350, 450 100 different types.
Wow.
And inside of that, there's different ranges within those types.
Okay.
My wife has the very common type, like what you would imagine to see on TV.
Okay.
Peter Dinklage, who was on Elf.
Elf, yeah.
He has the same type as my wife, which is called achondroplasia. Don't try to spell it, because I can't. And, I have a much more rare type. And that for a long time was not a lot was known about it, and we've learned a lot about it over the last 20, 30 years. 300, 350 to 450, 100 different types. I also add that anyone can have a little person. So both my parents and my wife's parents are of average size.
Okay.
Amazing.
So it's just like genetic, like abnormality or something that happens
happens
in about 1 in every 40,000 births.
Wow.
And so you and your wife can have regular sized babies. Incredible.
Right.
I always thought that might be true, but I've just never asked.
It's about a 25% chance. So the breakdown is, I just give you a visual picture.
Okay.
I'm 4'5", which is on the taller end of dwarfism.
Okay.
And so there's two things. There's height. My wife is only 3'11",
Okay.
and she was like I mentioned, she has Peter Dinklage type. She's what you would normally think of when you think of someone with dwarfism. There's the height element, and there's the proportion element.
Okay.
Meaning, if she were sitting next to me right now, she would sit a head taller than me.
Because of her body.
Right.
Okay.
Her body is more average size than her arms and legs.
Yes. Okay.
I'm exactly the opposite. My arms and legs and hands and feet are closer to average size than that of, with her type.
All right.
When I shook your hand earlier, I was like, your hands are like almost the same size as mine.
Golly. No doubt. Me too.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And so, that's a big part of it. Proportion. So the breakdown between us or any two people with dwarfism, regardless of the type, it's 50% chance that we will have a child with dwarfism or not. Inside of the other half, that 50%, it's 25 and 25% of whether it will have, one of our types.
Okay. Or
So
it could be one or the other.
It could be one of our types, or
Could be a completely different type.
well, actually, if it was a completely different type, it would be considered as a random.
Really?
Like, just like you,
Like almost unrelated to the two
right?
of
Totally
you.
unreal.
No kidding.
And
That's
so
crazy.
the other 25%, so it's like 25% that will have one of ours. The other 25% is that it will have both.
Okay.
Now that is fatal. We'll get to that, but that's actually led to what happened with our son that had the long NICU stay.
Wow.
Okay.
So on your hat, I see you have grit written.
Yep.
I know that's part of your ministry. Tim, I think you had something you were going to ask me about that.
Yeah. So, folks, tell me about grit. I read your bio, and I loved that this guy was reading about has a ministry called Grit, because you don't always imagine little people. Is that okay?
Yeah, that works.
Just
Go
full
for
of
it.
grit. I'm sorry, we just don't naturally. That's not our first inclination, and I loved that you're doing that.
Right.
100%. I thought I already like this guy. I respect it. I want to hear him talk about it.
Yeah.
So please tell us about. I know you do some coaching. I know you do some speaking, and I know that you help families. But why you call it Grit? I also want to hear all about.
Angela Duckworth. I think.
Angela Duckworth.
Yes. Wrote a book called Grit. Now, she was a lady in academia who wrote a very great kind of like thesis of like what makes up people who can persevere and go through hard things.
Cool.
In my mind, she misses two things: heart and soul.
Ooh.
She calls this out in the book, by the way. I'm not downing her book.
Sure enough. What does she say? Then let me hear about heart and soul. She says it requires.
It basically requires a lot of intentionality. She makes the thesis that some people are born with grit and not. It's kind of like not either you have it or you don't. You can grow it, which I'll get more on that later. But her thesis kind of found that like, hey, some people are just predisposed. What's that word?
Predisposed.
Predisposed to resiliency. And that it can have outside factors. Maybe someone who has had to do hard things at a younger age. Yeah. So
cool. Yeah.
In the heart and soul piece, like she doesn't really. She says this towards the end where she talks about, can you instill it in your kids? And when I heard her, in her but her conclusion on parenting was like, there's not enough data to verify one way or another. Can you grow it in your kids? And so I've been on a mission for a while now to redefine grit.
Okay.
And let me backtrack and kind of give you, you guys, we covered well, like I've had all this adversity, went on to have a child 4 kids, one of them who had a lot of adversity in his own right. But it wasn't until about 2 or 3 years ago that I realized that, hey, I went through all this stuff, and just because I plowed through doesn't mean I like have any more resiliency than you guys, right?
Okay, yeah.
What I realized is that I just simply endured it. I didn't go through it, and getting through it looks a lot like closing your eyes, white knuckling the steering wheel, and hoping for the best. And what I realized a couple of years ago through a lot of great group counseling, that grit is much more than that. It is not just simply being resilient or plowing through. It is opening your eyes and facing the thing you got to get through. And what I realized then is that I had just gone through it. I had never really faced it. And so going through some great deep work, it was faith-based. I was able to figure out how to emotionally process or go, like, truly face it.
Yeah.
And so when I say heart and soul, that's what I mean. It's like there's have I actually processed and allow myself to feel maybe the anger, the hurt, the sadness of the thing I went through on the way to lead me to even more faith. A mentor of mine, Jake Smith, used to say the opposite of faith is not doubt, it's certainty.
Ooh.
I grew up with a lot of certainty. Oh, well.
Tell me about the certainty you grew up with.
Well, I remember at a young age, I remember asking my mom, like, where'd God come from? I was like, and her answer was, well, he just always has been. And I had such a, vulnerable trust to my mom. I was like, oh, okay. She said it.
Sounds
He's
good.
always been here. That's it. Okay, cool. I know it. And what that robbed from me, while it was a perfectly great answer, and it set me up for what I think has been a faithful life. I never sat and I was a kid too, but it gave no room for faith because it was all about what I knew, not what I believed.
Yeah.
So when think about the idea of like, if we are just certain on it, then we don't need to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I lived so much of my life.
Interesting. So Tony Robbins has these things called the something of life. Okay, and we all have the five human needs, or six. Two of them are certainty and uncertainty. And interestingly enough, I feel like what you're describing is you grew up with a lot of certainty. If it is, it is, and that's the way it goes, and nothing's going to change, and I can stand on that, and that's good, and I'll always never need anything but that, because that is certain. Then you got your uncertainty, and I really love this study. I've looked into it, and if you ate the same thing every day because you were certain about that, then you're going to have a need of uncertainty, and that's where the faith comes in, and that's where Jesus meets us. It's kind of like, in my opinion, I love that you brought this up. If certainty's over here and that's 10% of your life, and uncertainty is the other 10% of your life, you're actually living in 80% of that balance,
right?
And to be grateful for that, and to feel the tug of that, and these potential unbalance at times of that, where it keeps you dependent upon the Lord. Sure, you can rely on your certainty, but there's some uncertainty that God uses and needs, evidently, according to Tony Robbins.
Right.
We need that, which is so interesting.
I think certainty is suck it up, buttercup.
That would be
Plow
certainty.
forward. That's certainty.
Yeah.
Uncertainty is like, wow, this thing's really scary. What am I going to do?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And then my thesis is grit can't exist without both.
Oh.
What did you say?
Grit cannot exist without both.
About both.
Yeah.
Certainty and uncertainty.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that framework, by the way. That's good.
Yeah. So here's a question for you then. Like we talked about it in the intro, but your son was in the NICU for 10 months straight. Where was God for you in those moments? And how did watching all that, like, I'm sure it wrecked you, but it also rebuilt you into like a stronger father and all those things. What did that look like?
Right. And mind you, this was our third child. So we had started out, to be 4 and 2-year-old at home. They would grow to be 3 and 5 throughout that year. And I think for me, we were simply surviving until one crucial moment, and it's related to what we just talked about. We were about 6 months into his journey, and at this point, he had been in 3 different NICUs. He was born here or not here, but in Franklin, was transported to Nashville, ends up in Vanderbilt after quite a journey. And after getting him there, we realized that he was going to need an artificial airway because his primary concern, other than just having, like, we didn't realize it at the time, but he had both my type of dwarfism and my wife's type of dwarfism. Oh. And so not only he, had kind of an average size-ish body frame, but his chest was very tight, and it was restricting him from being able to breathe well. And so it's just a long journey, and he gets sick in this process, like gets pneumonia really bad by way of E. coli. He got E. coli in the hospital of all places. And so it's a rough road. And so we're about 6 months into this journey. And we had done the artificial airway. They told us, I never forget, the doctor said he needs to have a tracheostomy, which is the process of an artificial airway. But this will be the hardest thing you do. And he may not make it. But he needed it. We were out of options at that point. We'd worked the entire 6 months trying to not go down that path. Mm. And we were about a month into this road. And when you do this, something that intense on a child, on a baby, 6-month-old infant, you have to make sure they don't reach and grab for anything. Mm. So he had had his airway put in, and his next month, he had to be both sedated and paralyzed. Oh. And so he was on heavy sedatives and paralytics. And so he couldn't move. And the problem really arose, and the original plan was to keep him paralyzed for a week, let the airway site kind of heal up. Let's figure out what the next step is from there. And every time they tried lifting the sedatives, lifting the paralytics, he would crash.
Oh no.
And so, and it was an up and down, like, we were able to lift him a little bit, and it was just the entire month of July that year. He had the tracheostomy on July the 6th. This is 2017. And the rest of the month was just up and down roller coaster. Mm. And I'll never forget, we get to July 31st, which was, let's see, let me back up. 2 weeks into this, we're just kind of up and down. And this is the moment where things really turned for us. And we had to leave his room every so often, like about once a week. They would clean all the tubes in his room. And we went to a little side waiting room near his room. Was visiting with some family that had come to town to see how we were doing. And my wife, she kind of like me. We both are pretty strong-willed. We're both like, we're going to get through this, but we're surviving. We're going to make it. God's got this. We were leading that charge, And I never forget that after one particular cleaning session, we had to leave the room for like an hour. They come back and get us, said, hey, you can go back to his room. And he's laying there paralyzed. He doesn't know he's there. He's completely out. And I never forget standing up in that waiting room and realizing that she is not next to me, my wife. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking back at her and seeing just tears run down her face. And I said, hey, are you coming? It's time to go back. And she looked at me as seriously as she could and said, I don't know whether to have hope or if it's time for us to let go. Mm. And I just looked at her, and to be honest, guys, like, these were not my words. Like, this was the Holy Spirit. This was God, like, speaking through me, because I said the words. You ever say something, and you're just like, where could that come from? Mm-hmm. That was this moment. And I looked at her, and I said, one way or another, this kid's going to leave this hospital. It might not be the way that we want, but he's going to leave this hospital. Our job is to be there for him no matter what happens.
Yeah.
That's when I believe we had true grit. When we showed up to that.
Yeah.
Because that was the uncertainty. That was the yearning for certainty in a very uncertain situation.
You had to really lean into the faith component of, like, that's the uncertainty gift, really, is like, only God can do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that like that moment. It's interesting because at that moment that changed the way we approached him and approached his journey. And 2 weeks later, like it was still up and down. And 2 weeks later, on July 31st, he coded 8 times.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll never forget that night. We just don't see that he has lungs that can sustain life. I think it's time that we, look at implementing a do not resuscitate order. We agreed to it the morning of August 1st. And as quickly at the moment we did that, some people that I had in my day job came and prayed over him. And 2 minutes after that prayer, he woke up as if nothing had happened. And his turnarounds began at that point.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Like for us, the journey had already shifted before the miracle. Like the miracle came later.
Yeah.
Your heart's like reoriented.
Right.
Yeah. So funny how that's the way God often works it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, God's sense of timing is such a big deal for me the last couple months where I've just been I have time. I have a sense of timing of what I think it would be needs to happen, must even, and then there's only that frustration in the midst of that, really angst, less sleeplessness, and I've recently been telling Jesus in the morning. Did it again this morning. That when a drummer's in the pocket. And I've been asking that I could be in the pocket of God's timing, and just to be able, like He's keeping the beat, and I just want to be right there, not Tim's ideas of what it must be. And every time that I've been doing that, I even felt it starting from this morning onwards, where I found myself reading something at the breakfast table for 5 minutes. Would have never taken 5 minutes to read anything this morning with my schedule that I woke up with on my mind and my heart, and I felt in my body stressing me way out.
Right.
And so He's, my dad used to say that God is not confined by time, because He invented time, so you can't be confined by something that you have invented. In essence, I don't know if I butchered it a bit, but He's not confined by time. Is the beautiful message, and for us to be able to operate in that with Him is, I don't know, man. It's just a way better way to live. And I bet the time between the hospital when you guys said that, and by the time your friends showed up to pray, and within that day, I believe you said, where he began to recover, like that. Let's say that took a week. I'm not sure how long that took. Maybe it took a couple hours, but I bet that was the beginning for you,
right?
And your little boy. What's his name?
His name is Zacchaeus.
I love that.
And how old is he now?
So he is 8 years old now.
Nice.
It's about the size of a 4-year-old.
Okay.
Like I think I mentioned, he has both my type of dwarfism and my wife's type, which is normally fatal.
Really?
Yeah, we found out, like, it wasn't until about the time he had his airway put in, we had some testing done.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really think about it, because we were like, oh, there's no way he has both types, because all the medical journals out there said, if you put this type with this type, and it becomes what they call double dominant in kind of the genetic world. If you have it, because dwarfism is a dominant gene. Yeah. If it comes in twice, it's typically always fatal. And there had been only 3 cases that I had tracked down worldwide. That was the combination of my type and her type that had lived past just the birthing room.
No kidding.
Wow.
And of those, all 3 of them had gone on to Paris later in life. Like, none of them lived past 15 months old.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, so it had been, obviously there was a lot there, but he had 2 different types. He's the size of a 4-year-old. He no longer has the artificial airway. He's come quite a ways. He's had a handful of surgeries himself. He had a lot of things that were common with me, Like he had to have the cleft palate surgery done. He has some hearing loss, but he has a lot like his mom. He doesn't have vision loss.
Really?
So he has her eyes. Thank goodness.
Nice.
And so he has a lot going for him. And if you saw him today, you'd be like, oh, he's just like his mom because he looks more like her right now. But yeah.
So I got a question to ask you in a second that I think will be great for the listeners, applicable to their lives.
Yeah.
But I have another one first that I think is just as applicable. Will you tell me what does grit mean in your life? How do you live out grit? What does that look like so we can learn from that? Not just an average understanding of what we may think grit might mean. What does it mean to you? What's that look like?
What I typically tell dads is you got to use your voice, share your story, find your people. And when you do that, you'll start to connect not only with that community, but you'll start to connect with your own story and what God's doing in it. And you also, like we were talking about earlier, you'll realize that you're joining God's story like he's not joining yours. We have the goal to believe that, and we got other issues. But yeah, so it starts with sharing your story. Ask for what you want and need. That's why your Heavenly Father's there. Ask others what you want and need. Like, get in a room full of, if I'm talking to dads, get in a room full of guys, trusted spaces to say, hey, this thing I'm going through really stinks.
Yeah.
Write it out, journal. If you don't have a group of guys right now, go share it publicly. As much as I, tend to hate social media, it does have the ability to allow us to share our experiences and connect with others on podcasts and media to share what you're going through. And then what that's going to do is you're going to find your people because your people will find you. And that will create a community like you've never had that isn't just about community. It's about you, the people that are hearing your story and resonating with it and also sharing, hey, I'm going through this hard thing too. This really stinks.
Yeah.
How can I pray for you? And that's where the genesis of it for me really is. It's like, if it's so many, especially with men, is they don't feel comfortable to even feel them, let alone share it. And so to me, that's the cornerstone, because for me, I was not sharing it. I just thought it was pretty evident. Why do I need to talk about it? That's just complaining.
Right.
And when you
That sounds like a dude thing.
right,
Yeah.
and when you
That sounds like what we would say.
right, and when you keep yourself silent, you'll just wander,
Yeah.
and you can wander and sleepwalk straight through your challenges, just like you sleepwalk through your life.
And it never truly, just because you're ignoring it doesn't mean that it isn't having issues and other things. Like, it pops up in ways you
Right,
probably wouldn't even associate,
exactly.
but it's because you're not processing and dealing with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that you're probably doing better than you think. I remember passing countless parents in the hallway of the NICU. And they would say something, they would ask the question. The typical question was something along the lines of, oh, how long have you been in? And, my child's been in for 3 days. And then they would ask me, how long have your child been in? I'd say something like 3 months. Wow, 3 months? I've been there 3 days. I can't imagine doing it. Well, yeah, you can. You've done it for the last 3 days, and any time in a NICU is too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so oftentimes we want to diminish because we don't want to face.
Yeah.
Yes.
Allow it to take up the space that it needs to take up. Not too much. Don't let it drive. But give it the space that it deserves.
I love that.
So it sounds like when you defined the typical definition that we often will use for grit might be white knuckling, just getting through it. That's grit. What can you define that one more time for me of your definition of grit.
My definition is opening your eyes, loosening the steering wheel, looking forward, and not ignoring everything that's happening right here. Be where your feet are, but also look forward that this is a journey that God has put you on, and it is what it is. Because if we don't face that, we'll just close our eyes and hope that Jesus take the wheel.
Yeah.
Kind of perspective. And so my counterbalance is, well, if you open your eyes, you kind of loosen up the steering wheel, share what you're feeling along the way. It'll be a lot easier of a ride.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty scary to close your eyes and be behind the wheel of a car.
So in Corinthians, one of our favorite verses around here it says, be alert, stand firm in the faith, be strong, act like a man, and make sure that all you do is done in love. And to be alert is you can't check out and be alert. You can't, Jesus, just take the wheel. It's hard to be alert if he's in that mentality of just take the wheel. So I love what you said. You appreciate where your feet are. And so you're standing on solid ground. You are present where you're at, and remain alert and watch God move. Standing strong is to me it means standing up, and in standing up that means you're against gravity. So the gravity's making you stronger. Standing makes you stronger, and just it goes from there. So, and again, I just can't not mention the last part of that verse. It says, and make sure that all you do be done in love. And so you can be alert and come off as toxic masculinity, standing strong. They can all, but you can do these things, but when they're done in love, they're the antithesis of toxic. And if you ever wonder, I've often thought this: if you ever wonder if you're not doing these things in love and they're coming off as toxic, just ask your friends, ask your wife.
Right.
They're very good gauges to be able to help you with that.
I would add to that doing that in love means loving your path, no matter where.
Loving your path?
Yeah.
Loving that path that you're on. No matter. Now, that doesn't mean you're crazy about it, but because love is a choice.
Yeah.
Just like it is with your spouse. Your spouse isn't always lovable, but you make the choice. I'm going to make this decision today.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for your journey. I don't really like the path I'm on, but you got me on it, and I'm thankful to be here.
Yeah.
Starts with gratitude. But
so we almost always define love as a feeling, but love is a doing.
Right.
I got taught early on that love is a series of decisions that you make to promote another. And it's always about it's doing, and it's also about others, and instead of just ourselves. That's a beautiful reminder of love. I'm imagining there's a dad out there watching right now. He's probably feeling fried, scrolling maybe on his phone. Maybe he found this that way, and he just passes the time. Feeling like he's just maybe letting everybody down. What's the very first move you'd tell him to make, start to build a real life in a Christ-centered grit? No fluff, just the first step.
First step, put the phone down. Be where your feet are. I said first step, and I'm going to give you like 3.
All right.
Be where your feet are and write down what you're grateful for.
Okay.
Because no matter where you're at, no matter where your journey, there is some aspect of your journey you can be grateful for.
Yeah.
It might be that you're breathing, but there is something to be grateful for. And I think more than just saying, oh, I'm grateful for, sit down and put a pen to paper, just like you would. If you're going to put your goals into action, you need to put your gratitude into action. And that starts on paper.
Very cool. I heard recently it's impossible to, when you're in true gratitude, and when you're going through maybe a gratitude list and you're feeling the gratitude of that it's hard. It's impossible to be depressed. It's impossible to be anxious. It's one of those great feelings, those gifts that God gives us when we're in gratitude, that we are able to just feel that, and we don't have all of the dogs barking out there trying to get our attention at the same time.
Right. And we can't do that unless we put our phones down.
Yeah.
Because we can't listen to what's going on around us. We got our phones out. My daughter, who's now 11, I walk in one day, got the phone out, walked in. I might have been looking at something interesting or total nonsense. She tries to get my attention a few times. Finally said, what was that? And she all of a sudden goes, well, Dad, if you didn't have your phone out, you would have heard what I said. And that was a wake-up call to me. But I think that's I tell that story because of how important that is. Put the phone down, be grateful, share that gratitude.
Yeah.
Once you've made that list, go share it with a trusted group and share your grievances. In my family, we do a grievance and gratitude time every week. And I think it's important we get that out because, like I said, you go share that, you will find your people. Ultimately, you'll find your purpose.
What do you think it might, for the guys that don't take advantage of your advice there, what do you think that actually might look like for them 5 or 10 years down the road who never levels up, let's say, his grit? What does that look like with his marriage, his kids, his faith? What happens?
Worst case, destruction. You destroy your whole life, whether it's self-sabotage or just toxic habits take over. The best case is you squander an opportunity for a legacy. Or you write a legacy you never wanted.
Oh, boy, yeah.
And that might be just as powerful as destruction.
Wow. Yeah. Kind of succeed in all the things that don't matter.
Right. And when I think through, when I'm trying to make a hard decision, I often think through, am I okay with the worst case scenario? In this case, you might say, well, are you okay if I choose just to continue to check out? Worst case is destruction. Best case is lost chance. Or regret will break you far quicker than failure ever will. And so
good.
I think I can't. I think you have to get to a place where you're not okay with the best case scenario of that path.
That's powerful.
Thank you for that.
What would you say it looks like for that man who truly says that yes to Jesus, to grit with Jesus, and is passing that to that family?
I think the essence of it to me is to be able to name what you are going through and be okay to say that it's hard. I'd be like every other inspirational story if I came on here and said, hey, I went through all this stuff, but it's okay. No, I'm going to look at you and say, I had 20 plus surgeries. In fact, I had 3 just last year.
Dang.
I had to go to Manhattan to do it, just to go find the right specialist.
Wow.
That wasn't fun.
Yeah. You're like, that wasn't fun.
But
no, thanks. I've already had 20 others.
And if we kind of what do you call it, like Jesus juked it a little bit, you could get to yourself, well, but it's okay. It was God's plan, but it also was hard.
Yeah.
And be okay in the hard, because you will never overcome anything you are unwilling to face. And so, in contrast, put the phone down and start facing.
Yeah. I love that you just used that term, Jesus juke, too, where it's not just going, oh, well, right. Jesus has got it or something. It's not real faith. It's not you ever actually processing it with him. You're just sort of like, I'm hopeless. I'm helpless.
Well, and that's like closing your eyes and white knuckling the steering wheel. That's simply acknowledge. You can do that.
Yeah.
And survive, for one. But that is simply acknowledging that God has you. It is not enough to simply acknowledge that God has you on a path.
Yeah.
You close your eyes and be, oh, God's got this. Jesus is going to take the wheel, or at least I'm on the path. I guess this is just the hard road he has me on.
And loving the path you're on. You
can't
said that earlier.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's way different than closing your eyes. And,
it is.
Well, God's got it. That is like a justification for just checking out.
Matt, we really thank you for being here today. I've been inspired. I know that our viewers and listeners feel the same. And thank you for
having me,
Kris. Heck yeah. Thank you for being where your feet are Thank you for embracing your path. Thank you for the grit that you have to go through 20 plus surgeries, and I praise God. Thank you for what you're doing. Now you're sharing your message and writing and speaking, and so I thank you. I just want to. Do you have anything else you'd like to add here?
Yeah, I would just say keep showing up. If you want to know more about me, I have a newsletter called Growing Grit. It's
Great.
aimed at dads, particularly dads with special needs kids, but it's all dads who they just don't know where to go next. And I want to help, whether it's a newsletter or one-on-one coaching, I just want to help you take the next step.
How they find you?
Growing-grit.com.
Growing-grit.com.
Grit.com.
Yeah.
Good name.
Love that.
Grit can be grown.
Grit can be grown.
Grit can be grown. Sir, I appreciate you being here, and I see Jesus in your life, and I want to just make sure that everybody out there that sees something special about what's going on here, we say that is Jesus, and that he brought you here for a purpose. If you're still right here with us, then God's speaking to your heart, and it's a great time is right now to start listening to that and to be where your feet are. Right now, you have an opportunity to receive Jesus, to ask him to step out of heaven and into your heart, that you give him control of your life. You don't. It's not blind faith. There's beautiful evidence, rock deep beauty and truth found all through God's word, and we are testimonies of the changed lives and that God has done in our heart. And if you would like to start afresh today with a new life in him, just pray with me now. Lord Jesus, thank you for coming into my heart. I ask you to step into my heart and take control, Lord. I give you control, and I would ask that you use me to glorify you, to do your will in Jesus' name. Thank you for forgiving me of my sins. I need you, and ask that you would use my life to do your will. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You guys, right there, that's just the beginning. So please continue to grow. Now, you've asked Jesus into your heart. Now you get to learn how to look more like him. So you can find out tons of great tools at standupdude.com/stand. We'll put it right there in the show notes. I believe it's usually right there at the top. And we can't wait to invite you very soon from now to a great thing that we're doing over on School, SKOOL.com, and we're creating something called The Forge, and buddy, it's going to be packed full of robust tools for you to use as we create this community and do it together. So we appreciate you. Share this episode with those that you love, that you believe it would inspire to have real grit, the kind that my bro right here represents and has spoken very well of. So reach out to him if you'd like for him to speak or know more about your book. What's your book called?
I'm working on it. It's going to be called Finding Grit is the working title.
Finding Grit. I love that.
Kind of the backstory.
We'll link it in the show notes when it goes live.
For sure.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.